Om Sahana Bhavatu Sahanau Bhunaktu Sahaviryam Karavavahai Tejasvinavadhitamastu ma vidvishavahai. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Om Purnamadah Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnamevavashishyate. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Shruti Smriti Purananam Alayam Karunalayam Namami Bhagavad Padam Shankaram Loka Shankaram Shankaram Shankaracharyam Keshavam Badarayanam Sutra Bhashya Krutau Vande Bhagavantau Punah Punah Ishvaro Gururatmedi Murti Bheda Vibhagine Vyomavad Vyapta Dehaya Dakshinamurtaye Namaha. Beat 17. She doesn't have the translation yet? No, but our Sahadev. So we'll recite this verse. Please repeat after me. Shreyan Swadharmo Vigunaha Paradharma Swanushthitat Paradharme Swadharme Nidhanam Shreya Paradharmo Bhayavaha. Shreyan Swadharmaha. Swadharmaha, one's own dharma. Shreyan is superior, better. The one that brings happiness, auspiciousness in one's life. So this morning we discussed how, as we said, Shreyan is the nominative singular of the word Shreyas. And we discussed how Shreyas means auspiciousness, well-being, happiness, freedom, success. We also saw, with the example of that person who was struggling to retrieve the golden necklace from the lake, how his repeated efforts of diving into water and trying to retrieve that necklace, how they failed, repeatedly failed. Although somehow he never realized what was the problem there. He perhaps might have concluded that maybe there is something lacking in my effort, which is why I am not able to get that necklace. And as we also saw, how another traveler came along and then he told him that, hey, what appears to be in the water is up there in the hanging from the tree. So what this one person was looking at was a reflection, but not recognizing that as a reflection, he thought that it is image, it is what is real. So this word delusion was being used. This is delusion. What is reflection is thought to be real. What is not there is thought to be existing there. And if this so-called delusion is known as delusion, then there is no problem, but that is called delusion. When I have wrong conclusion and I do not know that it is wrong, I think it is right. And that is how naturally the person is going to make efforts in attaining the success as he understands it to be right. There is no problem in terms of the person's sincerity, no problem in terms of person's perseverance and hard work. A person can do everything. In life, a person, please wear your mask. This person can be sincere, hardworking, honest. But then each one of us does what we do based on our perception, our understanding of life. And here the perception is, understanding is, that is where the necklace is. Or I may think that is where the happiness or success is. That I want success is not an offense, it's something that is understandable. That everyone is in need of success. Except that what that success is and where that success is, that is where the questions are. There are many workshops on how to be successful, and many various means and formulas are given to us. Some 3S and 4Cs and etc. etc. These different formulas are given. How to be successful? And those giving formulas are sincere. Except that they are guiding us to attain success as they understand success is. And therefore they are the teachers and we follow them and we follow those methods and attain success in our life or seek success in our life. So this is what Vedanta says that is a basic problem in the human life. And that is the wrong perception that I am seeking happiness, I am seeking success is a very genuine desire. Nobody can find fault with that, nobody can question that. And therefore you can say that success is my birthright. That's what Gokhale, and that is what our Lokmanya Tilak said. Freedom is my birthright. And it is. Except that we should understand what freedom is. Just each one of us is constantly struggling to be free, to acquire freedom, as we perceive freedom. And therefore, if somebody says great controversy is going on here and there and different places, that each one is seeking freedom is quite understandable and it is genuine. Except that we should have the right idea of what freedom is. And this is where Vedanta comes in. That freedom is not to be defined in terms of some external situation. Freedom is to be defined in terms of something internal, something subjective. It is not an objective phenomenon, it is a subjective phenomenon. And so this morning we pointed out that Bhagavad Gita teaches, Vedanta teaches, The fact that you are seeing a reflection means that there is an image, that there is real success, happiness someplace, and that is what you are, not it is within you. It's not within you, you are that. There's a difference between what is within me and what I am. To dive deep within me is one thing, but to recognize who I am is another thing. To search for something within me can be called yoga, let us say. To recognize who I am is called jnana or knowledge. So Vedanta says recognize who you are. And they tell us who you are. You are what you want to be. You are successful. Recognize that. So this Shreyas or Nishreyasa or success or happiness is our own self. This is, of course, discussed millions of times in this classroom. And a question arises naturally that when this so-called success or happiness is my nature, how come I don't feel it? How come I don't experience it? So this experience becomes very important. That I want to experience this success. How come I don't experience it? So Vedanta gives us an explanation. What is that deprives me of experiencing what is? There is something and I am deprived of the experience of that. Like the sun is shining in the sky and a cover of cloud deprives me of the experience of sun. That is a simple example. But the stock example of Vedanta is a rope snake example, which I am sure you must have heard because when you attend Vedanta classes, this is the first thing they talk about, rope snake. So far, I think Vedanta has not discovered an efficient example. So I remember some 40 years ago when we started our classes in Ahmedabad, this rope snake going on from class after class after class. And somewhere at the end of the class, an old person, once he just could not contain himself. He stood up and shouted, "Swamiji, change your example." But I don't know if there is a more efficient example than the rope snake. A rope is falsely taken to be snake. So, what Vedanta tells us that something like this is possible, that we may take one thing to be other than what it is. That's all it is. That's called delusion. What is wrong? Rope is taken to be snake. And so the one who is successful is taken to be a failure. Let us come to our own life. How does the rope snake example apply to us? How a rope is falsely taken to be a snake, so also the one who is successful by nature is taken to be a failure. I look upon myself as a failure. This is called the false perception, and we are born with this perception. And everybody shares this perception. Therefore, nobody will suspect that there is anything wrong in that. The whole world watches the sun rising in the morning and setting in the evening, and therefore concludes that the sun is revolving around the earth. This is what is visible. And so everybody thinks that the sun rises, the sun sets, and the sun revolves around the earth, and earth is stationary, sun is revolving. That is what our eyes seem to tell us. Or that is what is the conclusion of our mind. that sun is rising, sun is setting, rather than saying that that's what the eyes see, we should recognize that that is what the mind thinks. Because if we are given the right perception, hey, it is not sun that is revolving, earth that is revolving around the sun, then perhaps even when you see the sun rising, it's quite possible that you may recognize that it is not sun that is rising, the earth is revolving around sun in the mind. Thus, with right understanding, the perception can change. Perception in the mind can change. That's what Vedanta is seeking to accomplish. Change our perception about ourselves, that's all. That I am born with the perception of looking upon myself as an unsuccessful individual and therefore constantly striving and struggling to become successful. Which effort will never be successful because it is like this man trying to retrieve that golden necklace from where it is not. And so our efforts to become successful are very similar. So this man's struggle to retrieve that golden necklace is based on the assumption that necklace is where it appears to be. And he has no reason to question that conclusion unless someone points out that, hey, there is another explanation also possible. That maybe what you are seeing is reflection, not the image. But he needed to be told and pointed out. So also Vedanta teaches. Success is not where you think it is. Success is you, your own nature. What it means is that it is not that I have to become successful in life to recognize that Shreyas or success or happiness or well-being is my nature, is what I am. But I don't feel it, Swamiji. I've been hearing this from the day one for years and years. People ask this question in frustration, and it is understandable that we have been hearing Vedanta, Swami, but no change seems to happen. So, therefore, Bhagavad Gita or Shastras, Vedanta or Vedas rather also, they prescribe a way of life so that we discover this reality about ourselves. It has to happen. That my perception about myself has to undergo a transformation for me to discover that what I take myself to be is not what I am. I should discover that I am something quite contrary to that. Okay, Swami, we have heard you now. I say I am successful. No, that saying is not enough. Finding or experiencing is required. So how do I experience myself to be a successful person? For that, a way of life is prescribed by the scriptures. We should live a way of life which becomes a means of discovering that successful self. Discovering the fact about myself that I am Shreyas, I am Nishreyasa, I am success, or I am moksha. That's a big word, moksha. Nitya mukta. And that way of life is called Swadharma here. Shreyan Swadharma. So very simple thing. Swadharma. Swa means my own, one's own. Dharma means, we'll discuss righteous way of living. My dharma is Shreyan, then their word Shreyan also means superior. So, we have the translation now, okay. Therefore, my dharma is superior to the dharma of the other. Now in this verse there are two words, Swadharma and Paradharma. In the second line, the last verse is Paradharmo Bhayavaha. The first quarter of the verse says Swayan Swadharma. In the first quarter the word is Swadharma. The last quarter of the word is Paradharma. Two words are there. Swadharma, Paradharma. Swa means my own dharma. Paradharma, the dharma of the other. This business of Swadharma and Paradharma applies only to human being. Other than human beings, they do not have this problem of Swadharma and Paradharma, my dharma and others' dharma. Right now if I say Swadharma means acting according to my nature, and Paradharma means acting against my own nature, acting in keeping with my nature, and acting in contrary to my nature. Because there is Paradharma, therefore Swadharma becomes important. For creatures other than human beings, there is no Paradharma, therefore a Paradharma in contradiction of Swadharma or a Swadharma in contrary to Paradharma is not there. For us, there is Swadharma that is opposed to Paradharma. My own dharma opposed to another dharma of the other. So this is possible that a human being may act in keeping with something that is contrary to his own nature. It is possible for us to live a life that is in contradiction to our nature. And this is what most of the human beings do. And therefore this teaching here. Here Arjuna, may you learn to live the life in keeping with your nature. Now a dog, for example, lives a life in keeping the nature of a dog, and the dog never acts like a cat. But a cat doesn't act like a dog. And so you can predict how a cat will behave, how a dog will behave, how different animals and creatures in nature will behave. Because they always act according to their nature. Although we have stories in Hitopadesha and Panchatantra and maybe in Isapa, etc., where animals are portrayed as behaving in some different, like the jackal or the fox behaves in a certain way. This poor jackal has been known as a fox. Somehow has been chosen by these human fellows as a crooked animal, as an animal that is political, I guess, Political, yesterday, the word political. Political means manipulation. That a fox is portrayed as someone that manipulates. That is only that's our own story. A fox cannot manipulate. We have for our own pleasure, or for our own whatever lessons, impose certain things upon other animals and then create stories. The crow is like this, a cat is like that, a fox is like that. Which is good as far as stories are concerned. There cannot be a fox which manipulates or which acts in a manner different from its nature. Because that freedom is not given to anybody. These creatures they are not evolved enough to have that freedom. The freedom called free will is the result of evolution. Human being is the most evolved creature. And the criterion for evolution is the possession of free will. Other creatures are not evolved enough. They are evolved but not evolved enough to enjoy that free will. What is free will? Free will is that which allows me to perform a deliberate action. That I have the freedom to deliberate before doing something. Whether to do this or not do that. Kartum shakyam, akartum shakyam, anyathava kartum shakyam. Meaning that it is possible for me to do in this way or that way or some other way. So usually we deliberate. Whether to do something or not do something. If you do something, how to do also, there is a freedom. If I say, please come here. Suppose I say, please come here, and the other person is staring at me. Even though I say, come here, I don't think Swami means that, or if he means, why should I get up? Why should I stand up? Who is it to tell me? Or whatever, Meaning that I have the choice. I can deliberate and do. Oh, Swamiji told me. Okay, yes. I get up and go. Swami can tell me. I can get up and not get up and go. Or I can crawl, I can walk, I can run, I can roll. Whichever way I want to come, I can do. Depends on if there is a child here. You tell him, he'll just run. Other fellow will roll. So there are many ways of coming from there to here, and any one of the ways can be adopted by a human being. What I am saying is all this variety means that there is a freedom to deliberate of whether to do a certain thing or not. And having chosen to do, how to do also, all this freedom we enjoy, which is a great privilege. But then, that is called freedom which can be abused. What cannot be abused cannot be called freedom. And so other creatures cannot abuse their nature, therefore they don't enjoy their freedom. We can abuse the freedom. I've been given freedom to I have not been, now I'm not in contact with those things, but many years ago when I was commuting from one place to another, the bus stop, there is a pile of newspapers. You put your money and pick up a newspaper. Freedom. There were no CCTV cameras those days. Nobody was monitoring you, watching you, and therefore you had the freedom to pick up the newspaper and not put the money. So, thus, it is possible to abuse, that is called freedom which can be abused. Certain freedom cannot be abused. When we were traveling in the subway, there were these tokens, and there was this, what do you call it? Turnstile, exactly, yeah. You put in that thing, goes. You could not abuse your freedom. So there is no freedom. That is called freedom which can be abused, and human being enjoys that freedom. When freedom is given, there is an expectation of a sense of responsibility on the part of the one who is given that freedom. When I am given the freedom to pick up the newspaper, they expect from me a maturity or responsibility to place the money in that, Meaning that freedom requires a maturity or responsibility in order for that freedom to be a benefit to me, something beneficial to me and to the society. And the same freedom can be abused, in which case I will hurt others and myself. So this is a two-edged sword. This freedom or free will is a two-edged sword. That by proper utilization of that free will, by using the freedom or free will in a mature or responsible way, I can help myself and help others. And by abusing that freedom, when I do not display that responsibility or maturity, when does it happen? When 35 cents, the newspaper those days I think was something like 25 cents or whatever, 20 cents, 25 cents. Now it is much more than that, but those days. We put 25 cents, 20 cents, or 50 cents. And I may just pick up the newspaper if nobody is watching me. Why do I do that? Why do I pick up the newspaper without paying money? Even though there may be enough money in my pocket, and still I don't do that. Why? There is something within me called greed that prevents me from doing what is in that particular instance. There is this greed which stops me from parting with what is fair, so that greed can come in the way of my maturely displaying the free will. So problem with human being is that there are forces within himself or herself which are like to obstruct the displaying of that free will. Those forces are within myself. Therefore the need to tell me what to do, what not to do. So we require a GPS in our life. Rest of the creatures or whole nature, nobody requires any kind of dictation or any kind of guidance or instruction, I should say. They are programmed to behave in a mature way. Immaturity is a sign of evolution. They have not evolved, so they are all mature in that sense. Nobody abuses their freedom. They are not given the freedom to abuse. We are given the freedom to abuse. But why should this be given, Swamiji? Why has the Creator given us the freedom to abuse the freedom? It is the freedom to abuse the freedom also. It was not given. Would it not be nice? Then there will be there will be only harmony everywhere. Would it not be nice if we did not have freedom to abuse our free will, that we always behave in a legal way, always in a proper way? That's what all animals do. Unfortunately, they cannot grow also because they don't have freedom. So as I said, freedom is a two-way sword, two-edged sword. It can be abused or it can be maturely used also. And that is given to us for a mature or responsible use, so that that free will can become for us an asset. Same thing can become an asset or a liability. This free will can help me, or I can help myself, or I can hurt myself. Therefore the GPS, because I have a steering wheel, and therefore I can direct my car whichever way I want. It's quite likely that I might guide my car in wrong direction, and therefore I need the guidance. So since human being has the freedom to hurt himself, and hurt others also. Freedom to carry gun, not only possess gun, to carry gun. Possessing is one thing, you have gun in your home. Now this is a political issue, I should not want to discuss that here. But somehow when the freedom thing comes, all of this comes to my mind and everybody's mind. Possessing gun is one thing, having gun in your home is supposed to be for your protection. But bearing the arms, carrying it with you also, now there is an interpretation that you can, now that is freedom. When you have that, now that can do both. It can protect you or it can hurt. So that is the freedom that we have. And therefore, what the Shastra does is to guide us as to how to use our freedom or the free will in a manner that is beneficial to us, so that we have come with a goal, with an agenda. Each one of us is born with an agenda. What is the agenda? To be successful. And that success itself can be called a moksha, if you want to use that word. Moksha means freedom. Each one of us is born with an agenda of freedom, of seeking freedom. Freedom means happiness. And this free will is given so that we can fulfill that agenda if we use that freedom in a mature or responsible manner. But a human being can be immature also, irresponsible also. Because there are pressures within. There are some pressures within myself that can cause abuse of free will. The pressures are within me. I will discuss that. Lord Krishna says the pressures are called raga and dvesha, attachment and aversions, are the pressures within myself. What else were? Kamesha, krodesha, kama, krodha, lobha, lust, anger, greed are the pressures within me that may compel me to act in a manner which is contrary to dharma or righteousness. So since my freedom can be overwhelmed by these inner pressures or inner impulses, and whenever I am controlled by those impulses, I am very likely to abuse that freedom and hurt others and hurt myself. Other than human being, nobody can hurt others. If human being was not there until this fellow came, there must have been great, we can only imagine how the universe must have been, how the earth would have been. We had glimpses of that during that pandemic, where many of us must have seen those videos and photographs of how the rivers, how wonderful they were, how clean and flowing, and how the greenery was, how the nature was, how everything was so beautiful. This river Yamuna, in Delhi, this is just it's a Suez Canal actually, normally. You saw that river was so wonderful, Yamuna and Ganga and others. You cannot imagine that they can be so beautiful. So when the human being was not allowed to damage, not allowed to pollute, not allowed to come out, then rivers to some extent got their original glory back. Nature got its glory back. It was an evidence that it is human being that alone creates all the damage. We were not allowed to damage, therefore the nature had some freedom, to blossom around the world. And many animals found freedom to come out openly, and so in Spain and in European countries, and you can see many animals coming out and enjoying the freedom. They see the human being, they'll run away. But right now he was not there. Not that we want that situation. What would be ideal is that you go out and still conduct yourself in such a manner that that beauty is retained, that the nature blossoms. That's how we are supposed to conduct ourselves. It's not necessary that the human being has to damage things and damage himself in the process. He could. But Swamiji, why do we do this? Why do we abuse nature? Why do we exploit nature? Why do we pollute? Same thing, greed. It is greed of human being that causes all this damage and pollution. So we can see what damage is possible when the free will is abused. This was very evident. It's evident everywhere. Whether it is the global warming and many other calamities resulting from the global warming, and we are the ones who are suffering ultimately. So what can happen on account of abuse of free will is very evident. It took us a long time to learn this, to recognize this. That we should become the guardian of nature, not the exploiters of nature. But we are back to our old ways. When something like this comes, pandemic, then all of a sudden we wake up and then we say, no, we should do this. That lasts for a few days. That lesson doesn't last too long. The lesson given here lasts up to the gate, Like Shmashan Vairagya, the Vairagya that comes in a cremation ground is up to the gate of the cremation ground. Oh, life is fleeting, it's mortal, this is what's going to happen to me also. Some Vairagya comes. Once you come out, then hunger and thirst take over, and then you need Coca-Cola, and the Vairagya is gone. So we become very wise during pandemic. But soon that wisdom went away. Why? Because our greed again took over. Otherwise, you don't require scriptures. For animals, there is only one road. They don't require any GPS. We have so many choices. Where choices are available, there the guidance is required. That is where we can make it, where possible a mistake is there, then the guidance of what is right is required. Meaning that human being can make mistake. And what is meant by a mistake is that he can hurt others and in turn hurt himself. So understand that whatever hurt is anywhere, whatever kind of hurt is there and sorrow or suffering is there anywhere, is all caused by human being. Not only human society, wherever suffering is there in any corner of the universe, all suffering anywhere is caused by the abuse of free will on the part of human being. People, they blame God. Swami, what kind of universe God has created? So much suffering. There is famine, there is hunger, thirst, suffering, conflict, violence. God has not created that. God has done one thing. He has given us freedom. And the freedom to abuse the freedom. All of this suffering is the result of the abuse of freedom on the part of human being. Now we need not look around, we have to look at our own life also. Whatever sadness, sorrow, suffering is in our life is all caused by ourselves. And this may be, I guess, too strong a statement. Like accusing everybody, what do you mean, Swamiji, I have caused suffering to myself? And I don't expect that you have to agree with me. This is a very sweeping statement. But if you go into any kind of pain, emotional pain or suffering that we have, we'll find that somewhere or the other there is an abuse of free will on our part, today or yesterday. So I haven't done anything in this life, maybe not this life. That's why the law of karma comes. It's not important, but this law of karma is really to explain things, that's all. Because questions arise, why? Law of karma, your karma. So it's not important to us. All I'm saying is that we are capable of creating unhappiness for our own self. And therefore we are also capable of creating happiness for ourselves. And that is why where we require the guidance of, say, Bhagavad Gita, as to how to live life so that we embark upon a process of creating happiness for ourselves. That's called Swadharma. Shreyan Swadharma. One's own dharma is Shreyan, is superior. Viguna. What is viguna? Even though it may be devoid of guna. So, guna means virtue or good qualities, let us say, well performed or not well performed. But anyway, viguna. Guna means virtue. Viguna devoid of virtue. Means devoid of apparent beauty, apparent comfort. So my dharma or my duty may be devoid of the comfort. It may be devoid of, it may be difficult, more painful. And it is possible that someone else's dharma, because the grass always looks green yonder, so somebody else's dharma may appear to be more attractive and therefore I may be tempted. Now, these words we will understand in terms of the Bhagavad Gita, and we will understand the context, then we will see in what way they apply to us. We should understand that this is the teaching imparted by Lord Krishna to Arjuna, where Arjuna showed tendencies to adopt Paradharma. Paradharma means dharma belonging to someone else, or dharma which is in keeping with someone else's nature. Swadharma means the conduct in keeping with my nature, and Paradharma is conduct in keeping with nature of someone else. Like the donkey wearing the skin of a tiger. I guess that's the story. Again, there was this jackal, this fox, always manipulating. And therefore he told the donkey, if you put on the garment of a tiger, skin of a tiger, then nobody will come near you. And this was a sugarcane field. And donkey said, okay, and then he put on the skin of the tiger, and then the farmer ran away, and then the whole field was available to them. They enjoyed the sugarcane. And when donkey enjoyed, this fox also enjoyed. And I say that was his intention, his agenda. But then this donkey, when he enjoyed, when he consumed a lot of sugar cane, I guess something happened to his head. Maybe he got intoxicated. And he was all of a sudden inspired to sing. So he tells his fox, I will sing. He says, don't sing, please. No, I will sing. No, this is a very famous statement, No, I will sing. And he started singing. When the donkey sings, then everybody knows that is when that farmer recognized this was not a tiger, it's a donkey. And then the fox ran away quickly because he was a smart fellow. And the donkey was the one who was caught and beaten up. Paradharma. So when this fellow adopted Paradharma, the donkey adopted the dharma of a tiger. Bhayava, fraught with fear. It's likely that you may be exposed, and therefore it may be possible that you may be punished, you may have to suffer the consequences. It's just a story, Swadharma and Paradharma. Behaving, simple explanation of Swadharma is behaving in keeping with my own nature. Paradharma is trying to behave in accordance with someone else's nature. These words become relevant to Arjuna, and we'll see how they become relevant to us also. So even though Arjuna is the example here, we will not confine this teaching only to Arjuna, we will, for us to importance, how it applies to us. But first we understand how it applies to Arjuna. What makes Lord Krishna make this statement before Arjuna? Because Arjuna was willing to give up Swadharma, his own dharma, and was ready to adopt the dharma of other. What is that, Swamiji? What does dharma mean there? Was Arjuna going to change religion? So the word dharma has many meanings. Religion, one of the meanings. That's not the sense in which it is used here. But that was not a question those days. Dharma is an action performed in keeping with one's nature. Arjuna is Arjuna. He is a warrior. He is a hero. He is a kshatriya. He is a warrior class. And therefore to fight, not to fight really speaking, fight is not the nature of Arjuna. A kshatriya is not a fighter, although we translate it that way. A kshatriya's role is to protect dharma. A kshatriya's role is to protect the subjects, people. To protect the people from the attack of the enemies. To protect dharma also from the attack of adharma. Which means that a kshatriya stands for a cause. Although he may be called a fighter, he does not fight for the sake of fighting. He fights for anyway, for me, that's all. So he fights for a cause. A kshatriya is called a fighter, but he is a fighter who fights for a cause. What's the cause? Dharma is a cause. What is dharma? The order or harmony in the society. The well-being of the human beings in the society. When there is a threat to the righteousness, threat to harmony in the society, when there is threat to the safety and security of the people in the society, that is where a kshatriya's role comes, to do what is necessary to protect people from being subjected to damage or hurt, to protect dharma from being subjected to abuse, to protect dharma and people from being abused. This is the cause that a kshatriya has. So don't just call him a fighter. Kshatriya is a fighter, all right, but one who fights for a cause. Meaning that Arjuna is in the battlefield not just to fight. He is here to fight for a cause. What's the cause? Cause is to protect Dharma. And we said here that Pandavas, this morning we said, led by Yudhishthira, they stand for Dharma, embodiment of Dharma, and Kauravas, led by Duryodhana, are embodiment of Dharma. Although everybody in the Kaurava army is not adharmika. There are many dharmatmas in Kaurava army also, like Bhishma, Pitama, Drona, they are all great dharmatmas, and many others. But then Swamiji, why do you call these Kauravas as representing Dharma? Because Kauravas are led by Duryodhana, who stands for Adharma. That's all he has done for the whole of his life, is to violate Dharma, violate rights of Pandavas. And bring abuse and bring about any kind of suffering for them. In that sense, all Duryodhana has done, that with Pandavas, is to abuse the righteousness, abuse their rights, abuse Dharma. That's what Duryodhana is, but others are not. But others are supporting Duryodhana. Bhishma Pitama, for example, had a choice. Everybody had a choice whether to join Duryodhana's army or not. Bhishma Pitama also had a choice to join Arjuna, Pandavas. And so also Drona, they were equally related, isn't it? But then they chose to, for whatever reasons, then we need not go into those reasons. But all these army and all their leaders chose to join the cause of Duryodhana. Not Adharma, but Duryodhana. And Duryodhana is Adharma. That means that they all inadvertently chose to support Adharma. Because when they fight on the side of Duryodhana, if Duryodhana wins, Adharma will win. In that sense, we say that the Kauravas represent Adharma and Pandavas represent Dharma. So this is a conflict between Dharma and Adharma, and Arjuna is ideally the representative of Dharma to protect Dharma. He is here for that, ideally, not for kingdom, not for victory, but for protecting Dharma. And Arjuna said, I will not fight the battle. We talked about this morning also. But anyway, Arjuna has lost the interest in the benefits that this battle would bring. He lost the interest. I am not interested in a kingdom, not interested in long life or happiness. I don't see any well-being coming from this battle, and therefore I will not fight. But what will you do? One thing is you cannot cop out. You have to have some role. In those days, you have to have some role. If Arjuna does not perform the role of a Kshatriya, he has to perform some role. What role will he perform? He'll then perform the role of a mendicant. He'll become a sannyasi. That's the only choice he has. So, that means that Arjuna had this temptation in his mind to adopt Paradharma. Not dharma in the sense of religion, dharma in the sense of duty, that he had this temptation of adopting the duty of a sannyasi and giving up the duty of a householder. So in case of Arjuna, Swadharma and Paradharma, these are the meanings there. And that is how these words Swadharma and Paradharma apply to Arjuna, and this is what Lord Krishna is telling. But we will see how it applies to us also. Because after all, the teaching is not only meant for Arjuna. Arjuna is the apparent receiver. Partho Vatsa Sudhir Bhokta. Lord Krishna is the cowherd boy who milked the nectar of Bhagavad Gita from the cows of Upanishads. Even though the milk of the cow is meant for the calf, but calf gets some milk, I assume that calf cannot drink all the milk of the cow, even if the calf is allowed. We don't allow. A human being doesn't allow the calf to drink milk anyway. But even if calf is allowed, I guess still a lot of milk will be left, and that other people can enjoy. So keeping other people in mind also, this teaching is important. So we have to interpret how the teaching applies to us. So Swadharma and Paradharma in case of Arjuna, and we will see what Swadharma and Paradharma mean to us also. So with that background, we will continue our discussion in the next class, that will be tomorrow. Tomorrow the classes will be at 10 o'clock in the morning. Tomorrow is Sunday, the first Sunday of a month, when we have the weekend Bhagavad Gita class. But what we will do, so we have two classes, 10 to 11 and 11:30 to 12:30, whatever. But we will continue this class. That is what my plan is. Because in Bhagavad Gita, whatever it is, we'll continue the same discussion tomorrow. So others also will learn Bhagavad Gita, and then we'll also continue our own discussion. That's how it will be tomorrow morning. So tomorrow morning, this class will be at 10 o'clock with a coffee break or tea break, and going up to the lunch and Arti and lunch. That's how it will be tomorrow. Om Purnamadah Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnamevavasishyate. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Shankaram Shankaracharyam Keshavam Badarayanam Sutra Bhashya Krutau Vande Bhagavantau Punah Punah Ishvaro Gururatmeti Murti Bheda Vibhagine Vyomavad Vyapta Dehaya Dakshinamurtaye Namaha. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Hari Om. Shri Gurubhyo Namaha. Hari Om.